find a piece of technology that's going to make you better at what you do, and don't just follow whatever shiny object or whatever like thing the big boys are doing. Find the thing that works and is really important to your business.
This episode was recorded live at Digital Construction Week at the Excel in London, where I interviewed some of the best and brightest in the built environment for a revealing look at innovation and technology. Kris Lengiesa is the Global Technology Evangelist at Procore Technologies, bringing a wealth of experience and passion to the intersection of construction and technology, and playing a pivotal role in Procore's product strategy. Previously serving as the VP of Global Partnerships and Alliances, Kris oversaw a diverse ecosystem spanning channel, ISV, public, and association partnerships. His journey began with 15 years in construction, where he embraced technology as an early adopter and now collaborates extensively with industry innovators, tech organizations, and construction companies, exploring transformative technologies that promise to revolutionize working processes. In the ever-evolving landscape of construction technology, Kris stands at the forefront, bridging the gap between innovation and practical implementation. His vision? To empower the industry one groundbreaking solution at a time. With all of Kris's knowledge, in this episode, we uncover what it takes to create true digital transformations. Kris, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Delighted to have you on. For those that are listening, just before we came on and started recording, I complimented Kris on his fantastic bow tie. I'm a big fan of the bow tie. Is there any reason that you wear them?
So one of the reasons that I wear the bow tie is it does actually have a long history in the architecture and engineering space. But the reality of it is when I started doing a lot of speaking and engaging at conferences like these, I wanted something that was memorable. And a buddy of mine was a very traditional Southern gentleman in the United States, and he always wore a bow tie. And I was like, I'm going to steal that. And so I effectively took that and made that my thing,
nice.
Which did exactly what I wanted it to do, which is I wanted when people saw me around a conference, whether they could remember my name or anything specific about me, they're like, oh, I know that guy. That's the guy that wears the bow tie that I saw speak at DCW around how to do change transformation with technology. And so it's just that that mental marker of who I am. And it's fantastic. The only problem now is when I show up without it, people have a really they're like, where's the bow tie? And I'm like, well, they don't make bow ties with t-shirts with bow ties on them yet. So maybe I need to get some of those made.
Yeah, absolutely. And you speak in my language, being a marketing consultant, you speak in my language because it's all about being memorable.
That's right. It's all about the brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. So let's get into this. So Procore's annual revenue has grown by over 100% in the past 3 years. And this phenomenal growth goes back even further, reflecting the company's commitment and influence within the construction technology sector. What do you think is at the core to this continual success?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't recognize that, Procore is a 20-plus-year-old company. And so while we've had this meteoric rise over the last 5 to 6 years, it's built on a foundation that we are really trying to transform an industry. And we care so passionately about our customers, and our vision is to improve the lives of everyone in construction. We take that very, very seriously. And I think our connection with the industry kind of built for construction, by construction. We have a lot of construction professionals, and we just deeply, deeply care about solving that challenge for our customers. And I think that's really what it has driven a lot of our success. We focused on what they need, when they need it, and delivering in a way that's just simple and easy to use. And that has driven our customers to become, raving fans of our product. And we know how collaborative our industry is. And so when people get that opportunity to experience, we call them collaborators, Procore, even though they are not a customer of ours, they think about it for the next company they work for, or the next project that they're on. Hey, I actually might want to use Procore on this project too. And that's pretty important because that's helped us grow our market share as well.
Yeah, for sure. And putting the client first, it's weirdly enough, it's quite unusual for a lot of organizations to put the client first. It's usually tech first, so hearing that is music to my ears. It really is. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And it's baked into everything we do, from how we build our products all the way to how we go to market.
Okay.
And we really want to, understand what are the things that our customers care about. And I think for me, as kind of our global thought leader and our evangelist, I get to speak to a lot of customers and a lot of users of our software. And it's without a doubt that I run into somebody, whether I'm taking my kids to a sporting practice or I am, out at the grocery store and I happen to be wearing some Procore gear, that somebody walks up to me like, "You work for Procore?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Love Procore." And then usually the reason is like, the only reason I could do what I'm doing right now, dropping my kids off at jiu-jitsu, going to my kids' soccer game, is because I'm actually doing my daily log or I'm filling out a report that I need to do, or I'm looking at some information about my project while I'm not there. And they're like, it just changes how we work.
Yeah.
And so I love that function of it because we can see it making a real difference.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's brilliant. So, like you've just said, your position as Global Technology Evangelist, it's a no-brainer that you're going to be an advocate of digital transformation for organizations, so it's a bit crazy for me to say that. But as we know, in the UK, construction industry can be fragmented and it's saturated by the smaller organization, and they might not have the resources to invest in technology that large organizations actually do. So what's your advice for the smaller companies in the industry?
Yeah, I think, construction is absolutely full of small businesses. It's part of kind of that entrepreneurship dream. It's a place where a lot of people go to build a company for themselves. And so because of that, they always have to think about the bottom line and what's going to make them a better business. And I think there's definitely a place for technology investment, even in small companies.
Okay.
I think they have to be highly focused.
Right.
Don't try and eat the elephant in one bite. You got to take small nibbles at it, if you will, right? And so what are the key things that are really important to your business that are going to make you really successful? Find a piece of technology that's going to make you better at what you do.
Yeah.
And don't just follow whatever shiny object or whatever thing the big boys are doing, right? Find the thing that works and is really important to your business. And I'll tell you, more times than not, that's just about being able to make your people a bit more efficient.
Yeah.
Because when you're a small business, everybody does a lot of things, right? Your owner of your company is probably part CFO, part project manager, part marketer, part salesperson, right? And so anything you can do to make them have a better handle on the business or to make some of those tasks a little less intensive is going to be valuable to them.
Yeah.
And so focus there and then small bites.
Yeah.
Don't try and take on too much all at the same time. We've had customers, a good friend of mine went from being basically a $2 million US, so, a little less than 2 million in pounds business to almost a $50 million business, and was able to scale his business because he did it smartly. And he leveraged things like Procore, but also some other key technology things that let him manage more work with the same amount of people.
Yeah.
So he could grow his revenues in a big way without having to find more people, which we know is a really hard thing to do right now.
It's those 1%, isn't it? And not, like you said, try and eat the elephant in one bite. And it's so diverse, the construction industry, and there's so many organizations and so much different tech. And you see it with any industry, really. But like marketing, for example, it without a doubt, shiny new object syndrome. Yeah. And it's, when I'm consulting for organizations,
they talk about tech stacks and things like that. And I'm like, well, how can we reduce that? Not how can we add to it? How can we simplify? Because the more stuff that you add, the more complex it gets. And the idea behind tech is to simplify, right?
It's so true. We're at DCW. There are, 500, 600 technology vendors in this room right now. If you think about if we were to have an event like this 10 years ago, there might be 20 booths in here. Okay. So we've had this explosion of technology. And people are like, oh, I need that. It solves this problem. Oh, I need that. It solves this problem. But you have to do a little bit of whole problem thinking there to go, well, wait a minute. Now I'm asking my site manager to log into 5 different things every day to get their job done. And how much more efficient is that than, hey, I've given them 1, maybe 2 things. And a few of those processes might not be as efficient, but their overall day is better, right? And so we have to not just think about solving things individually, but kind of think about the whole problem or the whole business, the whole workflow when we think about a technology adoption.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard enough if you got 2 spreadsheets open. That's hard enough to keep control of, let alone 2 different technologies that are probably overinflated for a smaller organization as well.
Yep.
Not necessary. Okay, excellent. So Procore's innovative solutions have had a profound effect and impacted on working processes and driving efficiencies in the construction industry. In general, it's estimated that this tech can increase productivity by as much as 50%, and that was in Forbes last year, I think. Can you talk us through some positive impacts that Procore have been the catalyst to for your clients?
Yeah. So, fortunately, we have a great relationship with our customers. And so we survey them often on the impacts that they are seeing from leveraging Procore inside of their business. And so we did a study. It was the Procore ROI study based on what value were they getting out of technology.
Okay.
And one of the things that they came back with is that per worker, they were able to basically increase the amount of volume, dollars of construction that they could manage by almost 48%.
Wow.
So in an industry that's challenged with finding people, and you want to find a way to grow your business, being able to say, hey, each person I have can manage almost 50% more project than they could previously. And when I worked in construction, and one of the things that we did was we were trying to automate a lot of our contract process, right? Lots of contracts, change orders, bid proposals, all things that need to be signed. And so we did an integration between Procore and DocuSign.
Okay.
And on average, it was taking us about 40 days to get a contract signed.
Okay.
When we digitized that entire process and we got everybody on board, we were able to cut that down to under 14 days on average. Now, if you just think about that for a second, okay, so that's a lot of time savings, which equates to potential risk. But here's the cool part, real world examples. My company scaled from basically about $150 million US to about $300 million US without hiring any more contracts people. And so that's a real living example of this can help you grow without having to necessarily take on more people to do it because you're driving that efficiency in the business.
Have you ever had a client or advised them to slow down in the tech? Because, it's exponential growth that you've seen, but again, focusing on a smaller company, it might be too fast for them.
Yeah. This is a common concern that I think we run into all the time.
Yeah.
This looks great. We want all of it. Okay, well, hold on. You should have all of it, but that could be a 2-year process.
Yeah.
Let's find out where we can make the most impact first and get that out into the field. And you mentioned this a little bit earlier of this idea hey, we've kind of had tech stacks in construction do this big explosion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're actually starting to see some of the contraction as well now too, right? Because people are I need to be more efficient, not not necessarily from a spend perspective, but more from a, hey, what are my people experiencing? Where's my data? And how am I driving my process and my decision making? And so we oftentimes will work with customers and be like, here's a plan of how to attack this. We think that year one is focused on your field is dying for this solution.
Yeah.
And you will get a lot of favor by getting something in their hands almost immediately. And you'll start to see recognized value almost immediately. Now, that recognized value might be a little bit smaller than what you can do when you roll out tools around financials and forecasting, and then you start to get into like data and analytics. They may bring bigger value, but they're going to take a much larger investment. In a lot of cases, you need the foundation of the data that you're going to get from the field. And so in any technology rollout, I think you really have to come up with a plan. What is going to give me short-term wins that'll make people confident that we should keep doing more of this? Then what is the longer-term plan, and how does that align with where I want to go with a business?
Yeah.
And this is the part where I think small businesses sometimes struggle, is they don't necessarily have the time to sit down and think about that.
Yeah. On the go. Oh,
right? Because they're trying to move so fast and they're doing so many things that they're not sitting back and being like, okay, where do I want to be 3 years from now? How are these investments going to help me get there?
Yeah.
That's where big companies tend to have more of an advantage, is because they have people that's their job to think about that.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you can make the headspace to take a step back from the business for, a day a month, a couple days a quarter, and sit down and go, okay, where am I going? Where do I want to be? You probably know that, but like write it down.
Yeah.
And then how are the things that I want to invest in going to get me there? That will pay huge dividends to the business.
Yeah, for sure. Complete advocate of that as well, and planning. And the one thing that keeps cropping up time and time again when we talk about tech, particularly in this space, is that it's almost that it's the boring bits. We see this as this marvelous, wondrous technology and AI, and I think I mentioned it on a couple of episodes ago that ChatGPT has got a lot to answer for in terms of it making it snazzy and smart and accessible. But it's the boring technology that we need to focus on, and the behind the scenes and the bit that nobody really, they should care about, but nobody does, because it's not that front-facing 3D modeling thing that's right there and looks amazing,
So I love this conversation, because many times and as a guy who makes my money by being on stage and talking about AI, I don't think we should be talking about AI, right? I actually I think it's extremely important, and it is going to be transformative to the construction industry in a way that it's like when the iPhone or tablets and Android devices became popular out in the field. I think we're going to see that type of transformation with AI in construction, but it's not because we're talking about all the shiny things it does. It's because of all the things that we do that are so inefficient that can now be automated.
Yeah.
Prime example, whether you're doing a takeoff on a set of plans to order materials or to tender a bid, that is time to count that you just shouldn't need to do. And no estimators were harmed in the making of this statement, because those quantity surveyors and estimators, they have a lot more value to make by actually sitting down and thinking about the project and not just counting the things that are on the plans. And we're going to see the automation of a lot of those repetitive, non-value add tasks in a big way. And then large language models coming into this space. Construction is a business that is based on relationships and conversations. And ChatGPT, which is based on large language models, and however that gets integrated into the technology, and the way that Procore is doing this is we're bringing it into our conversations tool.
Okay.
We're allowing you to ask questions the same way that I would sit down here and ask you a question and expect to get a human response.
Nice.
But it's based on all the data that's already in your project.
Yeah.
And that's going to be transformational because customers spend, we've heard this in our data too, they spend almost 20% of their week just looking for information and answers.
That's it. One day a week,
just trying to find shit.
That's phenomenal.
And so if we can even cut that down to 10%,
yeah, absolutely,
by just putting it at their fingertips, they now can spend more time. We call it speed to decision making. You now start to think about the solution, the decision you need to make a lot earlier, and you have more time to spend on that, which our customers have also told us that they believe by having more data and more insights, they can drive more meaningful decision making in their business. They'll be afforded that time now, which is huge.
Yeah. My dad was a quantity surveyor, so I'll be glad he wasn't harmed in the making of this podcast. Like you mentioned in your previous answer, collaboration is essential for success in construction projects. It goes without saying. Technology plays a crucial role in facilitating seamless collaboration amongst project stakeholders. How do Procore solutions empower construction teams to collaborate more effectively, share data productively, and make informed decisions like you were just mentioning there?
Yeah. I mean, we all know construction is a team sport, right? No one company builds any project. And so it all comes back down to transparency and trust. Do people have a place that they trust that they can get the information they need in order to get their job done? And what Procore does is it affords them that place to go and makes it accessible to them on Android or a tablet in the field, that they know, hey, what I'm getting from here is the right information. I have it when I need it. And now I can go and do the next thing, right? And so our ability to collaborate across company stakeholders and all the way from those who are directors in businesses managing a whole portfolio of projects down to the person installing a unitized wall panel on a multi-story residential project, they all have the things that they need inside of the platform. And it drives accountability, it drives accessibility, which then drives that transparency and then builds that trust.
Is there any level of stakeholder, like you said then, from top to bottom, that you get more resistance from?
So field personas, site managers, and actually those doing the physical work are usually some of the first ones to be like, oh, I don't need that to do my job. But they're also the first ones that it helps them one time, and then they're like, I can't imagine doing this without it.
For sure.
And the other part of it is it's probably more generational than it is by role, right? We have a generation that is graduating, retiring, exiting our industry that didn't grow up with technology. Like clipboards was technology that got introduced to them. Like that was a new thing, right? And so they sometimes struggle with just adopting technology, doesn't matter what it is, in its own right. Now, the interesting part about that is the next generation coming into the industry, they all grew up having technology in everything they do.
Yeah, digital native, right?
So they're a digital native. And so they're like, I want more of it, but they need to understand how to use it.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't say it's necessarily a role dependent, like where they are in the organization. I think it's very much a generational component, because we have executives that are customers who are like, they live and breathe the data and they're in the dashboards every single day.
Yeah.
And then we have, field personas who have been in the industry for 35 years and are like, I've never used anything like this to do my job before. Why do I need to do it now? So more probably around on that generational piece than the level inside of the organization.
Interesting. Just moving on to kind of best practice, if you like, and a little bit of a focus on the future, but we'll come on to real future predictions in a minute. The benefits for adopting new technology are obvious and clear, and we've spoken about nearly all of them while we've been talking. But construction companies often face challenges and resistance, again, like we've been talking about. What should we be focusing on right now to be ready for digital changes that will be coming in, say, the next 12, 24 months?
Yeah, so I think there's really 3 significantly important things to think about when you talk about being innovative and adopting technology.
Yeah.
Number 1 is you have to understand the problem you're trying to solve. Some problems are regulatory in nature, meaning like we just have to do this because it's a standard, it's governmentally regulated, whatever that may be. So people tend to like adopt technology around that a lot easier because they're like, well, I have to do this anyways. Why not use something that makes it faster, easier? Then there's like, hey, problems that we're solving that make the business better. And those sometimes aren't as obvious to why people have to buy into them and do them. And so if you really truly understand the problem you're solving and how it makes the business better, then you'll find the right innovations to it. So that's number 1. Number 2 is you've got to have a plan. Buying the software or the technology is just the first step.
Yeah. What, you mean it just doesn't solve itself?
You cannot, like, listen, things are easy to use, and we have customers that are up and running in Procore in like 30 days and do most of it themselves and just rock and roll. But you got to have some sort of a plan on how you're going to attack that, because driving the adoption and driving consistent usage of it, that will drive your long-term value in your investment, and make sure that you're measuring the impact that it's having.
Yeah.
Like, what did you expect this to do? How are you going to measure that? And let's look at it along the way to see, are we getting the results that we expected? And then I think the third piece is, and probably the most important, but also the hardest, focus on your people. What do they want? What do they need? Get them involved early. Get feedback from those frontline managers, communicate really well with them, help them understand why you're doing this, right? Educate them on what the plan is for the rollout. And if you can engage your people and build that kind of culture of innovation, you'll be able to adopt technology at a rapid pace. I was recently on a job site with Winvic up in Birmingham, and they blew my mind at how much technology they were rolling out on the job. And back to your question, like, I wanted to walk in and be like, y'all are trying to do too much. But when I got out there and I started talking to the people that were using it, what I started to realize is that they had really engaged the next generation.
Okay.
The next generation saw it as a way for them to actually catapult themselves and learn something new. So they were highly engaged. The leaders in the company were like, we need to do this because we know that we have a problem getting people into the industry and we have to figure out how to be more efficient. And everyone around the job seemed to understand what it was that they were trying to do with that technology and how it was going to work. And so by the time I left, after 2 days of walking around the job site and talking to all these people, I was like, you know what? I feel pretty good about your plan. Yeah. You seem to have this figured out. And it was just really impressive to me to see them digesting that much technology all at once and doing it well, which was great to see.
And that gives them a huge competitive advantage, right? Not just right now, but in the future, and not even from a technology perspective, but from a stakeholder and employability perspective. Who's not going to want to go to that company that is embracing technology and giving you the opportunity to utilize it?
Well, it was really interesting. Even within their own company, we were on one project, and there were 2 examples of apprentices who were coming on their days off to that project to work with this new technology because they wanted to learn it.
Wow.
So think about that for a second.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
So someone they work over on this job site. I'm going to go work over there a couple days a week because I want to learn something new. That's impressive.
Yeah, massively. So good segue into this final kind of section, if you like. And I'm going to, not that I haven't already, but hand the mic over to you, really. And I want you to give us your wildest predictions for the next decade within construction technology.
Yeah. So I can't, it's the elephant in the room, maybe not the one we're trying to eat one bite at a time, but AI is going to transform our industry. I just think that there's so much that we are going to be able to automate and that we are going to be able to things that we never thought were possible before. And the other piece of it is even the things that it is solving in the background, how fast it is allowing technology companies to attack problems that we didn't know if were possible to solve previously. And so I also say, with a bit of cautious optimism, don't just go and buy something because it's AI. You still have to understand, is this a problem that I need to solve in my business right now? Okay, now I'm looking for solutions. Well, I want solutions that are using the latest and greatest technology. Okay, now I see how they're using AI to solve the problem that I want to have. So that's one. I think robotics are going to be much more commonplace. I don't know. I'm still not sold that we will replace humans with robots on job sites in the next 10 years. What I do believe we will 100% do is augment humans on a job site. And we're already seeing examples of this. The HP site print robot, the Dusty Robotics robot, the Hilti J-Bot. These are things that they still require a human to be there to set it up, to get it going, but they make that crew or that job more efficient than it was before. Yeah. Right? I think, maybe about past 10 years, we'll see more humanoid robots that are helping to augment the industry. But to be honest with you, we shouldn't be afraid that jobs are going to go away because we don't have enough people as it is. And so we've got a long ways to go before we will get to a point where I think anybody's taking anybody's job. If you want a job in construction, you should be able to go get a job in construction right now. And that's our bigger challenge, is getting people to want jobs in this industry. Yeah. And I think the last one that I would say is we're going to see data play a role like it has never before. Okay. I think we are now getting to a tipping point where companies have been digitized. So meaning they're collecting data in a digital way, whether structured or unstructured, that now they're going to start to use it to actually provide some real insights and to make some real decisions. And what I mean by that is we're seeing examples of customers that are using data to help them figure out which projects to go after that'll be the most profitable to their business. We're seeing customers use data to start to predict what type of safety issues they may run into. Okay. Yeah. And all of that is foundationally made possible because we've been collecting more information and more data. And I think that's really important because I think in 10 years from now, no one will question, well, hey, we should go after these 5 projects because we know that type of project is more profitable for us. That developer or owner has a success track record of actually getting projects to move forward. All the different things. That designer, their designs tend to be a higher level of completion because we've seen enough information around it. And so we're going to bet much more heavily there than we would on this unknown project over here.
Yeah, I don't get that fear of job losses either. It's you look at well, I'm in construction, but my industry or my core skills and ability, which is in marketing, and it's like 10, 15 years ago, social media wasn't a thing. Now you get roles which are exclusive to the likes of TikTok, and that was just never heard of. It's like that's nonsense. It's craziness. I think the same thing will happen in construction. There'll be different roles, and roles will change and merge, and there'll be different types of skill sets. But it won't just happen overnight. These will be built up, and people will gain that knowledge over time, and that's when they'll they'll come into the forefront and be needed as well.
I think the most realistic example of that we can talk about on this is a site engineer who's laying out a project today, doing that in a very traditional way of using a traditional total station, a 2-man job that, they're communicating to each other and putting points out on a floor. Well, now we've had robotic total stations. So it's just a new skill and they're getting more specialized. And now we're seeing site robots that are printing on the floor. But all the fundamental things that you need to know as a site engineer on how to set up, what good layout looks like, how to load the plan in, those things aren't changing. The tools you're using are a little bit different. And it's probably not a lot different from when we shifted from traditional hammer and nail to nail guns, right? We still have carpenters.
Yeah.
They didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
They just maybe are a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Right? And we still don't have enough of them.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. Right. Final question.
Yeah.
We're here at Digital Construction Week. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah. So this is my 3rd year at DCW. Okay. Always an extremely impressive event.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I get the opportunity to travel pretty globally. I've been to Australia, New Zealand, France, Spain, London, Dublin, all over the US this year. And it's really interesting to see the different themes and trends that emerge as you're in different places. There are companies here doing amazing work and amazing things. And, if you are interested in how technology is going to change, even if you're not trying to buy anything, just coming to learn about what they're doing here is valuable, because you'll start to think, okay, now as I think about my business or my job or my role in the company, are there things out there that I should be aware that are happening? And, just to see the growth of it year over year.
Yeah, for sure.
To see the progress that companies are making, and the conversations this year are a lot different than they were last year, than they were a year before. And we're starting to see more and more real true case studies of it working with the technologies in this room. And so I would encourage anybody to come out, even if you're like, I don't do a lot, I'm not in a tech role, just to learn what's happening. And if you're a younger professional in this industry, come here to get excited about what the future looks like.
For sure.
What are some of the tools that you could be using in the future? Because this stuff is coming.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. Kris, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on today.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for the time, and appreciate the opportunity to have a little bit of a chat.